Marcus Ellis had never been the kind of man to take shortcuts. He worked hard, played by the rules, and carried himself with quiet pride. Born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama, Marcus had made his way up the corporate ladder at a prominent software company in San Jose, California. Over the years, he endured the silent weight of being underestimated. The subtle looks, the cautious tones, the surprised nods when he delivered excellence in spaces where black men were often tokens, not leaders. After receiving a hard-earned performance bonus, Marcus decided it was time to fly first class for the first time in his life. He booked a ticket with Altura Airways, a newer airline boasting comfort, hospitality, and a modern fleet. His destination, Seattle, where he would attend a major tech conference and present a keynote on AI and ethics in enterprise software. He felt a flutter of excitement. The upgraded seat, the warm towel service, the extra legroom. It wasn't about luxury. It was about being recognized for once as someone who belonged at the top. But that flight would turn into something else entirely. Something historic. Chapter 2. Altitude Unease. The morning of his flight, Marcus arrived at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport early, pulling his stylish new carry-on and laptop bag through the terminals. At check-in, he handed his ID and confirmation to the Altura agent. She gave a half-smile, avoided eye contact, and tapped keys silently. Marcus noticed a moment of hesitation, barely perceptible, before she handed him his pass. "Enjoy your flight, sir," she said stiffly. At the lounge, another attendant did a double take before forcing a smile. Marcus chalked it up to travel fatigue and told himself not to read into it. But by the time he boarded and stepped into the first-class cabin, the tension became impossible to ignore. A flight attendant, a tall woman with bright blonde hair and a crisp uniform, gave him a once-over. She looked at his boarding pass, then back at him. "First class?" she asked. "Yes, C2A," he said with calm certainty. She nodded slowly. "All right. Right this way, sir." Her voice carried that tone. That tone, the one Marcus had heard countless times growing up in the South, suspicion dressed as politeness. He took his seat. Plush leather, wide armrests, and elegant lighting surrounded him. He allowed himself a moment of pride. He had worked for this. But as the cabin filled and flight attendant Jacqueline Monroe continued her welcome rounds, Marcus noticed the difference. She laughed easily with other passengers, mostly white, mostly older, lingering to chat, offer pillows, or recommend drinks. But when she got to him, her smile evaporated. "Drink before takeoff?" she asked. "Orange juice, please." She returned a minute later, dropped it on his tray, and left without a word. Chapter 3. Discomfort at 30,000 feet. The plane lifted off. Marcus opened his laptop to review his keynote, tuning out the discomfort. It was probably nothing. Maybe she was tired. Maybe he was reading too much into it. But then the meal cart came and skipped him. He watched in disbelief as Jacqueline and another flight attendant served meals row by row, smiling, chatting, explaining the choices. When the cart passed by him, no one made eye contact. Marcus pressed the call button gently. A younger male attendant named Connor Reyes came over. "Hey there, sir. How can I help?" "I wasn't given a meal," Marcus said evenly. Connor blinked. "Oh, that's odd. Let me fix that." He returned a few minutes later with a plate and a quiet apology. But before Marcus could start eating, Jacqueline returned. "You needed something?" she asked coldly. Marcus kept his voice calm. "I had pressed the button earlier. I was skipped." Her eyes narrowed. "This is my section. Next time, please wait for me." There was an edge in her tone. Marcus raised his eyebrows. "I was just trying to get what I paid for." Her jaw tightened. "If you have a complaint, you can bring it up after landing." She walked off. Marcus stared at his tray, appetite gone. Chapter 4. A Dangerous Escalation. An hour later, turbulence rocked the cabin. Jacqueline, walking down the aisle, stumbled slightly as the plane shook. Her hand brushed against Marcus's armrest. "You tripped me," she hissed. "What?" Marcus blinked. "You put your arm out." "No, ma'am." The plane shook. "That's all." Passengers around them looked up. Connor rushed over. "Everyone all right?" Jacqueline turned to him. He tried to trip me. Connor looked stunned. It was turbulence. But Jacqueline stormed off. Moments later, Connor returned, face pale. I'm really sorry, Mr. Ellis. I don't know what's going on, but I think she's reporting the incident to the captain. Marcus's stomach twisted. For what? I didn't do anything. I believe you. Just be careful. The remaining flight dragged like a slow nightmare. Marcus sat frozen, terrified. Would police be waiting at the gate? Chapter 5. Grounded but not silenced. When the flight landed, passengers began gathering their things. Marcus remained seated, watching. Finally, Connor approached quietly. She told the captain you were confrontational, he whispered. But other passengers, and I, backed you up. You should be okay. But be prepared. Sure enough, 2 uniformed security officers waited as Marcus exited. Mr. Ellis, one asked. We've received a complaint about an incident on board. Marcus took a deep breath. I didn't touch anyone. I got witnesses. The officers seemed skeptical, but after a few tense minutes and statement from fellow passengers, they let him go. No charges, but the humiliation lingered. That night, Marcus sat in his hotel room, staring at the ceiling. Then he picked up his phone and began typing. Chapter 6. The Lawyer. Marcus wrote everything down. Every moment, every word, every insult. Then he searched for civil rights attorneys in Seattle. One name came up repeatedly, James Thornton, known for holding powerful corporations accountable. 2 days later, they met in a glass-walled office downtown. Thornton listened intently, asking sharp questions. This isn't just discrimination, he said at last. This is defamation. They try to paint you as dangerous. We can file suit, but won't be easy. Are you ready for that? Marcus thought of all the times he'd bitten his tongue, all the insults swallowed, all the quiet dignity. Enough was enough. Yes, he said. Let's do it. Chapter 7. The Lawsuit. Thornton filed a civil suit against Altura Airways, alleging racial discrimination, defamation, and negligence. He contacted passengers from the flight. Several agreed to provide sworn statements. Connor Reyes, risking his job, agreed to testify. I saw what you did. It wasn't right, he said. Discovery unearthed damning documents. Internal complaints against Jacqueline Monroe, emails from supervisors brushing them aside, a corporate culture where bias was managed quietly. Altura tried to settle. Thornton refused. This is bigger than money, Marcus said. It's about truth. Chapter 8. Trial at 30,000 feet. The trial drew national attention. Marcus took the stand. Calm, eloquent, unwavering. Passengers testified next. She skipped him. She accused him out of nowhere. She was hostile. Connor delivered the knockout blow, describing not just the flight, but prior instances he'd witnessed involving Jacqueline's treatment of minority passengers. Then came the internal emails. One supervisor had written, "Let's keep this quiet. We don't need PR issues." The jury deliberated just one day. Their verdict: Altura Airways was guilty of racial discrimination and defamation. Damages: $12 million, including punitive penalties. The court also ordered mandatory diversity reform, public apology, and internal restructuring. Chapter 9. The Collapse. The fallout was immediate. Stock prices plummeted. The CEO resigned. Jacqueline was fired. Boycotts spread across social media. Soon after, Altura filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Marcus didn't gloat. He wasn't in it for revenge. But justice had been served. He donated much of his settlement to civil rights organizations. Universities invited him to speak. News outlets featured his story as a watershed moment in corporate accountability. Chapter 10. The Man Who Didn't Sit Quietly. Marcus never wanted fame, but his story became a symbol of quiet strength, of standing up when it mattered most. He never forgot the feeling of that seat into, not the leather, but the burden he carried, the stares he endured, and the moment he decided enough was enough. One man, one flight, one truth, and an empire fell.